A terrified man opens his cabin door at dawn and freezes. A giant bear stands on his porch, tears in her eyes, gently placing a dying cub at his feet, as if begging him for help. What happened next would test courage, compassion, and the fragile bond between humans and the wild. The morning began like any other in the quiet mountains. Mist drifted between the tall pines, and the world felt still, as if time itself hadn't yet awakened. The man stepped onto his wooden porch, stretching lazily, expecting nothing more than another peaceful sunrise. But the moment his eyes lifted toward the clearing, his breath stopped cold in his chest. Standing only a few steps away was a massive brown bear, her fur damp, her body trembling softly, as though she had walked a great distance. Fear surged through him, yet the bear did not roar, did not charge. She simply stared, her eyes heavy with something deeper than instinct. And then he saw it. Hanging gently from her mouth was a tiny cub, limp and motionless, its paw stained with darkened blood. Slowly, with heartbreaking care, the mother bear stepped forward and placed the cub on the wooden boards at his feet, then backed away, sitting down as if in silent prayer. She wasn't a threat. She was a mother begging for hope. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The man could hear only his own racing heartbeat and the faint rustle of wind across the trees. The cub lay still, eyes closed, breathing shallow, fragile as a fading ember. The mother bear watched him intensely, her gaze desperate yet calm, as if she already understood that whatever happened next no longer belonged to her paws. He knew the danger. Every lesson about wildlife safety echoed in his head. One wrong move, one sudden gesture, and this mountain giant could end his life in a heartbeat. But fear wasn't the loudest thing he felt. Compassion was. Something about the way she trusted him, the way she surrendered her child at his door, cut straight through his hesitation. Slowly, he crouched and wrapped his flannel jacket around the tiny, motionless body, whispering softly, as if the cub could still hear him. The mother didn't growl. She didn't advance. She simply lowered her head, eyes glistening, and remained perfectly still. With careful steps, the man lifted the cub into his arms and carried it inside, while outside, the grieving mother waited, hoping a stranger might perform a miracle. Inside the small cabin, the man laid the cub on a blanket near the heater, his hands trembling as he worked. The tiny body felt cold, its breathing faint, each fragile gasp sounding like a fight against darkness itself. He warmed water, cleaned the blood from the wounded paw, and tried to slow the bleeding, doing everything he remembered from his days learning basic animal care. Every second felt heavier than the last. Doubt crept in. What if he was too late? What if his help was only delaying the inevitable? Outside the window, the mother bear remained unmoving, a dark silhouette against the forest, her presence a constant reminder that this life wasn't his alone to carry. The cabin filled with silence, broken only by the ticking of the heater and the occasional weak sigh from the cub. The man leaned closer, whispering encouragement, as if words themselves might anchor the tiny creature to the world. He worked without rest, refusing to give up, because somewhere deep inside, he understood, this wasn't just a rescue, it was a promise. Hours slowly passed, stretching like an endless winter afternoon. Then, just when the weight of failure began to settle in his chest, the cub's paw twitched, barely a movement, but enough to spark a surge of hope through him. A faint whimper followed, weak yet alive, and the man let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He gave the cub a few gentle drops of warm liquid, and its tongue moved, responding with fragile effort. Outside, the mother bear lifted her head, sensing the shift in the air, a soft rumble echoing from her throat, not a warning, but a plea of gratitude. The cabin no longer felt like a place of fear. It felt like a fragile bridge between two worlds, the wild and the human heart. With every tiny breath the cub regained, the man felt his determination deepen, his connection to the moment growing stronger. He stayed beside the young life, speaking softly, guiding it through the darkness toward warmth and safety. Hope, once faint and distant, was now a quiet light flickering back into existence. Days passed, and the cub began to change. Strength returned to its tiny legs, curiosity returned to its dark eyes, and small playful movements filled the once silent cabin. The man couldn't help but smile each time the cub nudged his hand or stumbled across the floor, its innocence a reminder of just how close it had come to being lost forever. But with every improvement came a quiet truth he could no longer ignore. This wasn't his companion. This wasn't his home to offer. The mountains, the trees, the wild air, that was where the cub truly belonged. One morning, as sunlight spilled across the porch, the man made the decision he had been avoiding. Gently, he carried the cub outside. At the tree line, the mother bear emerged, cautious yet hopeful, her eyes never leaving her child. The cub hesitated, looking back at the man, torn between safety and instinct, between warmth and destiny. The man knelt, whispering a final goodbye, his heart heavy yet proud. With a small step, then another, the cub walked toward its mother. She lowered her head, touching him gently, and for one brief moment, the wild stood still, reunited, whole, and free again. The forest grew quiet after they disappeared into the trees, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the echo of a moment the man knew he would never forget. Life eventually returned to normal, the quiet days, the soft winds, the solitude of the mountains. But the memory of that morning lived on in his heart like a permanent mark. Sometimes, at dusk, he would stand on the porch and look toward the clearing, half expecting to see them again. And every so often, when the world was still enough, a faint shape would appear among the trees. The mother bear, strong and calm, with her growing cub beside her. She never came closer, never stayed long, yet her presence said everything words could not. In that brief silence, the man understood that trust had passed between worlds, and compassion had crossed a boundary few ever witnessed. It wasn't just a rescue, it was a reminder that even in the heart of the wild, kindness can change a life, and sometimes it changes too.